Leroy Smart was born on March 15th, 1952, in the culturally vibrant heart of Kingston, Jamaica, a place where reggae pulses through the streets like blood through veins. From a tender age, the rhythm of the ghetto called out to him. Orphaned at the age of 2. Raised in Maxfield Park Children's Home, life wasn't easy, but it was fertile ground for resilience. A product of Jamaica's post-colonial socio-economic challenges, Leroy grew up surrounded by hardship and inspiration. Music was more than an escape, it was prophecy. In a home with few resources but plenty of voices, he found solace in singing. As the echoes of ska, mento, and early rocksteady drifted from neighbors' radios, Leroy began to develop his own distinct sound. From early on, Leroy exhibited traits of a rebel soul. Teachers found him headstrong, friends saw him as bold, and the streets called him gifted. Unlike many who were drawn to crime, Leroy chose a different path, the microphone. That path would eventually crown him the Don of the reggae underground. Leroy's professional journey began in earnest in the late 1960s. His first recording, It Pains Me, hinted at the emotive, socially conscious path his music would take. But it was in the 1970s that Leroy truly found his stride. Collaborating with producers like Gussie Clarke and Bunny Lee, he carved out a distinctive niche in the genre. What set him apart? His unique blend of bravado and vulnerability. While other reggae artists leaned heavily into roots or lovers rock, Leroy did both, and then some. He sang for the ghetto youth, the disenfranchised, and the broken-hearted. His voice, a mix of husky sweetness and unapologetic fire, became instantly recognizable. One of his earliest hits, Ballistic Affair, captured the imagination of Jamaica's urban youth. The song's gritty portrayal of life on the edge earned him both street cred and national attention. As he once said in an interview, "I sing what I live, and I live what I sing." Leroy Smart's music wasn't just for dancing, it was for thinking. Tracks like Pride and Ambition, Mr. Smart, and Wreck Up My Life were filled with philosophical musings, warnings, and defiance. He championed the downtrodden while simultaneously calling out hypocrisy within the system and the industry. Unlike the Bob Marleys of the world who aimed for a global message, Leroy kept his feet firmly in Jamaican soil. His defiance of authority, both real and metaphorical, was legendary. At times, his rebellious spirit made him a controversial figure, but it also made him a hero to the people. Songs like I Am the Don weren't just braggadocio, they were declarations of survival, and they hit home with every youth who felt overlooked, misunderstood, or suppressed. Throughout his career, Leroy Smart released a string of critically acclaimed and commercially impactful albums. Each captured the zeitgeist of its era, while showcasing his growth as an artist and thinker. Notable albums include Impressions of Leroy Smart, 1973, his debut, Filled with Promise and Pain, Dreadhot in Africa, 1977, a musical exploration of his roots, Africa, and the global struggle for justice, Ballistic Affair, 1979, perhaps his most well-known LP, blending roots with militancy, Propaganda, 1980, a sharp critique of societal manipulation and political deceit. She Loves It in the Morning, 1990, his romantic side surfaces in this lovers rock-heavy release. Across the decades, Leroy has dropped over 35 studio albums, each with its own tone, message, and flavor. His ability to remain relevant speaks volumes about his adaptability and depth. A circle of legends, friends, and collaborators. In the golden age of reggae, camaraderie and competition went hand in hand. Leroy Smart moved in circles that included luminaries like Gregory Isaacs. The cool ruler often sparred lyrically with Leroy on the charts, but the two had mutual respect. Dennis Brown, a fellow roots lover, Dennis and Leroy both brought emotional intensity to reggae. Bunny Lee, a legendary producer who helped craft some of Leroy's early sounds. Gussie Clarke helped bring polish and reach to Smart's gritty edge. King Tubby, the dub master who gave many of Smart's tracks otherworldly echoes. These friendships were built on mutual respect for lyrical skill, street authenticity, and survival instincts. Studio One, Channel One, and King Jammies were more than studios. They were battlegrounds and proving grounds. As with many street-hardened reggae veterans, Leroy's journey wasn't all smooth sailing. He had brushes with the law, periods of incarceration, and run-ins with rival artists. But in every challenge, he saw an opportunity for growth, and often a hit song. One of his most infamous periods came in the 1980s when he was briefly imprisoned. Rather than silence him, it sharpened his edge. Songs like Jah Is My Light and Back Out Babylon reflected a man unbroken by bars or bureaucracy. Through it all, he maintained a philosophy rooted in Rastafarian teachings: freedom, justice, and divine guidance, love and legacy. Behind the fierce rebel was a man of heart. Though fiercely private about his personal life, it's known that Leroy Smart has had long-term relationships and children, some of whom have followed in his musical footsteps. His wife, whose name is kept out of the limelight, has often been described as a pillar of strength, a woman who supported his musical journey while managing the chaos that came with fame. Leroy's children, including one or two sons involved in the reggae or dancehall scene, represent the continuation of his legacy. Just as Leroy carried forward the torch of the ghetto youth in the 70s, his offspring are now bearing witness to a new era of struggle and style. Still standing, current endeavors. In the 21st century, many reggae artists have faded from view, but not Leroy Smart. Though not as frequently in the public eye, he continues to record, perform, and inspire. He remains active in community-based projects in Jamaica, especially in helping troubled youth find alternatives to violence through music. Occasionally, he'll pop up on festival lineups, Reggae Sumfest, Rebel Salute, and shows across Europe where his old-school fire is in demand. Digital platforms have given his old classics new life. Gen Z audiences, especially in Africa and the UK, have discovered Leroy Smart through streaming, leading to a quiet revival of his catalogue. In interviews, Leroy now speaks as an elder statesman of reggae. "I've been through it all," he recently said, "and I still stand tall, because truth never die." In 2025, he mentioned working with Jah Screw and Jah Life, and had recent releases like Make This Love Be True and Don't Leave Me an Inch, according to Reggae Vibes. Please subscribe for more.